All right, so far we've built up our painting, and we have a nice structure built in there. And if we take it down strip by strip, we'll see that there's basically a gray background with some light colors on it, like a pastel. The sketch is on the top of that to kind of keep everything placed, but pretty soon we don't need the sketch at all. We have a value study. Feels very painterly because it's shape-based. We have the speed painting of colors, mostly colors stolen from here, and using a customized brush, which gives us a lot of kind of texture and variation, and painting at lower opacity, so it really feels like we're painting on a canvas or on some sort of believable material. And then what we talked about last time, the mixer brush layer, which are stealing color directly, using whatever brush we choose, but stealing color directly from photo reference or from something else underneath. So you take this low-res image, and then you use the mixer brush on top of it, and you're able to replace it with clean kind of brush strokes of those colors. So really all you're doing is stealing the color. And I wanted that for some of these more difficult areas like the hairline, and to get some of those colors directly. All right, so here's our painting as it is so far. At this point, I want to point out the advantages of using Photoshop is not so that we can just make a photo, though a lot of people think that digital painting is synonymous with photorealism. It's also so we can really just control our own art and be more experimental with it. And having it in layers makes that a lot easier. I'm able to cut away from certain parts to kind of clean it up. And also to be inspired by different types of art, different styles, and see how you might approach that. Whether it's this Kandinsky painting, which has a lot of outlines, but I don't think I want to go the outline route too much, at least not till the end. So what I did over the weekend is I found kind of style board reference that I might want to use. And I fell in love with this collage in particular by an artist, and then I worked with it just playing with the colors a little bit. But I kind of like this idea. Not just broken colors and bright colors like I altered this collage to be, but also kind of torn edges, different content, even some letter forms showing. Because that's a lot of how James Joyce approached his artwork, which was writing. His literature is kind of cut and pasted from different sources very often. So let me see. So if I steal that and I kind of paint it, maybe put it above everything, like a texture fill, stretch it to cover, maybe not all, but some. Maybe you can think of it as a background behind him. It's low resolution, of course. And then if I try some different overlays, it might be interesting to get a little bit of that effect in my painting. What's so great about digital art is I can try all these things. Like I can try this hard light mode, and then I can move that down below some of my other layers. And I can see how that fits in. And where I want it and where I don't want it. And I think I do want it to almost look like I'm painting on top of this collage. And then, of course, because it's digital, I can always edit, right? So if I don't want all this background, I want to keep it nice and clean still, I just can cut around and just use parts of it where it's most effective. Make a duplicate of that. And then I can play with its opacity. I can play with lots of different aspects to that, just overlaying on top of certain elements. And that might be really interesting. Not limited by its resolution. Right? That kind of thing. All right, so realize that I have all those tools at my disposal. But now back to just regular painting. I pick my brush. It's going to remember the last one I used. But it's maybe been a while. I wanted to show you some of these brushes I really enjoy, that are just scans of ink wash, and you can use them directly, and you can modify them, no matter what their color is. And you'll see they have transparency already built into them a little bit, and you can obviously use them at different opacities. There's just so many tools you can use. I want to give them a hint of green there, very organically. I can just use these as almost stamps over the top. But then there are the brushes that we modify through our brush settings to do the job we want them to do. And those are very often shape dynamics, and the angle, and the texture. This has a canvas texture kind of built into it. And if we're doing fur or something like that, we could even try the scattering. And play with it almost like it's an airbrush. There's just lots and lots of different tools we can apply. And we adjust the size, and we adjust the opacity, and we paint with those. All right, so once you have everything set up, then you start painting. You start selecting the colors you need. You start adjusting it. And I'm going to play with a different brush. Problem is, once you've spent all your time kind of modifying it to what you want, you want to stay on that brush for quite a while, so you don't have to reset these things. All right, so let's try this. And again, you can steal colors from yourself. And just depending on the opacity you're using, I tend to use pretty high opacities in the beginning as I paint, and then as I get more specific, I'll go to lower and lower opacities to start kind of blending things together. You want to be mindful of what layers you're on. And if you're ever in doubt, you don't want to mess up what you have, you just start new layers. And I have so many interesting colors that I've taken from other places as I build that I can just steal colors now from myself. I don't need to worry about even going to the Kandinsky painting anymore. I've got so many in here that are useful. Because every time I use a low opacity brush, I'm mixing them together. Notice my brush is not too small either. I don't want to get too detailed too early on, and I get to see how it all comes together right here. And it's helpful to paint on something that's not bright white or not black, something that's a middle gray. You get rid of a lot of the whites. It helps you choose better values because you're working on both sides of the values. And with that low opacity, all your colors will mix together. It's nice in human portraits to kind of work from the eye out a little bit. So that's where you'll get sort of the soulfulness of your approach. But remember not to be too detail-oriented, looking at the whole picture in your navigator, seeing how it works. And I'm still not going to add the glasses and the mustache until I'm happy with everything going on underneath. So those are just attributes that go on the top. A lot of squinting involved, kind of see where the lights and darks are, how light and dark they are, and a lot of adjusting. Just like painting with a canvas. And whenever you paint or draw color studies, whenever you work with colored materials in your blending, it's going to improve your digital painting skills. And I like to think that practicing this helps you with some of your traditional skills as well. The big advantage here, the big difference, is you're not limited to the materials you can afford. You can try almost anything out with digital painting.